Tonight, TikTok's defiant new challenge. The social media giant says it will fight a potential ban. The looming legal battle in the U.S.
We aren't going anywhere.
And Canada's take on claims of a security risk. Police reveal videos in the search for suspects after a wave of extortion cases.
These are all local Edmontonians.
Plus, tracking a hidden enemy. New research on head injuries in elite soldiers.
Somebody that I know, that I'm close to, takes their own life.
Alex Jones has made his appearance.
Also, an American conspiracy theorist creates a Canadian political scandal and is seeing really believing.
We started looking at it more and more and more, and we thought, whoa.
A Canadian couple, a mythical monster, and a photo getting a lot of attention.
It's unexplainable. It's unbelievable.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. One of the world's most popular social media platforms has defiantly vowed to take the U.S. government to court after Washington officially put the Chinese-based parent company behind TikTok on notice. ByteDance now has 9 months to sell the platform, which has 170 million American users, with a 3-month extension if a sale is in progress. If it doesn't divest, TikTok will be banned in the U.S. And while President Joe Biden has signed the bill declaring the app a national security threat, his campaign said today it still plans to use it through the U.S. election. CTV's Sarah Plowman on TikTok's countdown and what it could mean for Canadians.
The countdown has started for TikTok. The U.S. president signed a bill into law forcing the app's Chinese parent company to sell or be banned within 9 months.
We do not want to see a ban. This is not about a ban. This is about divestment, selling, right, being sold. This is about our national security.
U.S. lawmakers and the FBI say TikTok is a national security risk, claiming China could turn to the app to access users' data or spread propaganda. A position TikTok resists and vows to fight in court.
Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts. The facts and the Constitution are on our side.
170 million Americans use the app. Some rely on it to make a living.
Have you heard of the Syngonium?
Unlike Americans, Canadian content creators aren't paid by TikTok per view, but do depend on its reach for sponsorships.
TikTok is the vast majority of my income.
3/4 of Toronto's Mark Gaetano's followers are in the U.S.
There's still a wider margin of time to deal with the possible ban and then therefore deal with the repercussions. But it still is definitely scary to think about.
The Prime Minister says he won't comment on what other governments are doing.
Canada will continue to look very closely at how we can make sure we're keeping Canadians safe while making sure we're taking advantage of great technologies.
The Trudeau government has ordered a national security review and banned TikTok from government devices, but some experts don't expect Canada to follow the U.S.
I think Canada will sit back, wait, see the massive backlash.
Despite signing a bill into law that could ban TikTok, President Biden's campaign still plans to use the app to reach young voters. Omar.
Sarah, thanks. Biden's signature also triggered the release of a massive and long-delayed foreign aid package. $60 billion for Ukraine, $8 billion to support U.S. allies like Taiwan, and more than $26 billion for Israel, some of it for humanitarian aid in Gaza.
Israel must make sure all this aid reaches the Palestinians in Gaza.
The war has ignited heated protests that are spreading at university campuses across the U.S. tonight. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators clashed with riot police at the University of Texas in Austin today. Several were arrested. Demonstrators are demanding their schools cut financial ties with Israel. Some Jewish students say the protests are anti-Semitic and make them feel unsafe. The second largest donor to the UN Palestinian Agency says it is restoring funding to the organization after an independent review found Israel provided no evidence to support claims the agency's employees had links to terrorism. The largest donor, the U.S., has yet to do so. But today, along with the United Nations, it called for an investigation into mass graves discovered at 2 Gaza hospitals raided by Israeli troops. Meanwhile, Hamas today released this undated hostage video of American Hirsch Goldberg Polin alive after his abduction on October 7th. Footage from that day shows his arm badly damaged by a grenade. In today's video, his left hand is gone. His parents calling on Israel and Hamas to reach a ceasefire agreement and sending this message.
Hirsch, if you can hear this, we heard your voice today for the first time in 201 days. And if you can hear us, I am telling you, we are telling you, we love you, stay strong, survive.
The Cuban government has apologized to a grieving Quebec family and says it has launched an investigation after they were sent the wrong body. After 68-year-old Faraj Arjour died on a family holiday in Cuba, relatives paid $10,000 to have his body returned to Canada. But when they went to identify it, another man was in the casket. An American far-right conspiracy theorist is part of a Canadian political clash between the Prime Minister and the man who wants to take over his job. CTV's Mike LeCouture explains.
We're making a historic shift in our approach to public lands.
While promoting his budget, the Prime Minister took a swipe at Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
Every politician has to make choices about what kind of leader they want to be.
Trudeau's comments come after a video surfaced online showing Poilievre visiting anti-carbon tax protesters on a highway in Nova Scotia.
Everyone's happy with what you're doing.
According to the Broadband Institute's Press Progress, members of the group have been affiliated with the so-called Freedom Convoy and the far-right group Diagolon. Trudeau also referenced this endorsement from far-right conspiracy theorist Alex Jones, who called Poilievre the real deal.
So the fact that Pierre Poilievre hasn't stood up to condemn that endorsement, the fact that he continues to encourage the kind of divisive approaches to Canada that I don't think Canadians want to see, really shows that he will do anything to win.
In a statement to CTV News, a spokesperson for Pierre Poilievre said, "It is the endorsement of hard-working, everyday Canadians that Conservatives are working to earn. Unlike Justin Trudeau, we're not paying attention to what some American is saying." Some Conservatives contend Poilievre shouldn't have to respond to it unless it becomes a political liability. And it's not clear it is one at this point. Omar?
All right, Mike, thanks. Yet another athlete has been suspended indefinitely from pro sport, this time football, after the CFL said an investigation showed he bet on league games, including one he played in. Grey Cup champion Shawn Lemon abruptly retired 2 weeks ago, 4 months after he signed a 1-year extension with Montreal. And as CTV's Alison Bamford reports, today's penalty likely shuts the door on any potential comeback.
3-time Grey Cup champion Shawn Lemon has likely hoisted the cup for the last time. Months after helping the Montreal Alouettes to victory, the veteran defensive lineman is facing an indefinite suspension from the CFL for wagering on league games.
By giving him an indefinite suspension, I think they effectively end his career.
A CFL investigation found what the league calls clear and irrefutable evidence that Lemon bet on games back in 2021, including a game he played in with the Calgary Stampeders. The Stamps organization reacting in a statement, saying the club is surprised and disappointed by the revelations and condemns Lemon's actions. The league says there is no evidence to suggest the game outcomes were impacted by the bets, nor did anyone else from the team know about it.
The whole premise of their entertainment product can be undermined if fans don't believe it's real and believe that coaches or players or officials have bets on a game that compromises the integrity of that.
Lemon isn't the only professional athlete to come under fire for sports betting. Just last week, the NBA banned Toronto Raptor Jonte Porter for breaking that league's gambling rules.
The CFL and all Canadian sports have a problem. In Canada, we have an arrest-free zone for match fixers. There's no criminal charge for corruption of sport in our country.
Lemon abruptly retired 2 weeks ago, ending a 13-year career that saw him play for several CFL teams. Now, Football insiders say his case will serve as a warning to all players thinking about sports betting. Allison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
Police in Edmonton released new footage today of local suspects they believe were being directed by someone in India to carry out a series of extortion attempts. 34 since last October, causing $10 million in property damage. Crimes, they say, have now stopped. CTV's David Iwasek on the investigation.
The file is called Project Gaslight, and while it is linked to a criminal element in India, the 10 investigators working the file are confirming it is not related to the shooting death of Edmonton home builder Buddha Singh Gill nearly 3 weeks ago.
This homicide is not believed to be connected to the Project Gaslight series.
Police also say the Edmonton extortion incidents have no link to any other similar investigations happening across Canada. 6 men now facing arson and firearms offenses here, but police need to identify others linked to the fires. And they have video of them. First, on November 6th, on 16th Avenue and 12th Street, an unknown trio. They're looking for any tips the public can provide.
It shows 3 suspects getting out of a vehicle with a gas can, and later running back to the same vehicle.
Another video on November 24th, Meadowview Way in Leduc. 3 people again approach a home with a gas can. And then there's these 2 suspects also with a gas can on December 14th in Beaumont. They approach a home, smash their way in, and as they leave, they torch the building and run away. Police know one person, but not the other.
We are looking to identify the person carrying the red jerry can, wearing white shoes and a gray hooded sweatshirt.
They're also asking for information regarding 2 vehicles spotted at the same arson scene and identifying these unknown men buying gas cans at a Walmart and at a 7-Eleven. Police say the arson losses now total $10 million, and while the South Asian community has been receptive at town hall meetings, investigators can't say if any local home builder has ever paid an extortion fee under threat of fire damage. David Iwasek, CTV News, Edmonton.
There's a new snapshot tonight of companies that are the worst offenders when it comes to plastic waste. The ranking coincides with a major UN summit in Ottawa tackling what has become a global issue. CTV's Judy Trin reports.
For 5 years, researchers tracked some of this ocean trash to its source. Volunteers in 84 countries documented 2 million pieces of single-use plastics. Half of them were branded.
Now we know which corporations we go to in order to hold accountable for this plastic waste.
The study found that 20% of the branded waste were linked to 4 food and beverage companies: Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Nestle, and Danone. At this UN summit, Canada announced it will force companies to track how much plastic they're using and recycling. But scientists are pushing for more. They want a global agreement to cap production.
One that reduces plastic production and focuses on essential use. There's a lot of non-essential plastics that are being produced and are leaking into the environment.
But lobbyists say work is already being done in the plastics industry to reduce waste.
There are a lot of effort underway in terms of redesigning a lot of the products so that they use less plastic from conception.
Still, the equivalent of 1 garbage truck of plastic is dumped into oceans every minute.
When fisher folks get to the sea, sometimes when they pull their neck, the amount of plastics that they catch is more than the fish they are looking for.
Plastics can take up to 500 years to decompose, and even then it doesn't really go away. It just gets smaller and smaller. Research shows that humans ingest the equivalent of a credit card worth of plastic every week. All the more reason to take action now. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Coming up, fighting an invisible enemy.
It's like being in a boxing match each day, pretty much.
The new research into traumatic brain injuries. Plus, hold your horses. The wild scenes through London. A brain disease best known for impacting athletes who have suffered concussions on the playing field is showing up more frequently in soldiers returning from the battlefield. Here's CTV's Adrian Gabriel on the vital research.
From the theater of war to the training field, we're now learning more about a combat wound that has remained nearly invisible for decades. Inside the Brain Imaging Center at Toronto's Centre for Addiction and Mental Health, a revealing pilot project on military veterans is underway.
Your brain jiggles around and hits back and forth.
Isabelle Boileau is studying the brains of individuals who've had high exposure to battlefield blasts. She believes some members of our armed forces who've been diagnosed with PTSD may also be suffering from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, also known as CTE. Previously found in hockey and football players, the brain disorder can only be diagnosed after death.
Do you believe we're facing a crisis?
Yeah, in short, it's a crisis. You know, there are certain documented cases of individuals that have died by suicide that have had a proof in brain that they had CTE.
Every 4 to 6 months, somebody that I know, that I'm close to, takes their own life.
Brennan Hine served with the Canadian military for nearly 3 decades. For 11 of those years, he was a member of JTF-2, Canada's top-tier special operations force. Dispatched to Bosnia, Afghanistan, and Iraq, he estimates that he's been exposed to approximately 2,000 explosives.
It's like being in a boxing match each day, pretty much.
While still enlisted, he began to struggle with his focus and temperament. He told his superiors he needed help and was demoted, losing his special forces pay and much of the medical support that comes with it.
Well, that institutional abandonment, that's probably one of the greatest predicating factors to the epidemic we see in veteran suicides.
After being discharged from the military, the father of 2 nearly took his own life.
I was going to go home with the kids, and then I'd come up with a plan on how I was going to take care of that, how I was going to end my life.
Veterans Affairs Canada Liz Hayes is likely suffering from CTE. The former Special Forces breacher is using his voice to demand more support from the Canadian military for those suffering from a traumatic brain injury, so those who fought for our country aren't left to fend for themselves. Researchers have put out a call for veterans to volunteer and take part in the Brain Research Project Isabelle Boileau and others are leading. Earlier this week, we reached out to the Department of Defense with a list of questions. They've yet to respond. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead. The pushback against a tourism fee to access one of Canada's top destinations. A new fee to visit Quebec's picturesque Magdalen Islands has sparked a fierce debate other tourism hotspots around the world are also facing. Here's CTV's Geneviève Beauchemin.
A plan for tourists to pay to play on the postcard perfect Magdalen Islands has unleashed a storm over the Gulf of St. Lawrence archipelago. As of May 1st, visitors will have to get a pass, pay $30 for a QR code to access the chain of islands. Money's to be invested, says the municipality, to preserve unique landscapes. The islands are home to just 13,000 people, but manage garbage left behind by more than 60,000 visitors a year. And officials say they opted for the pass instead of parking fees or payment for beach access.
It is very important for the residents to keep our place, our islands, our Magdalen Islands, beautiful, healthy. So we need help from all the people that comes to Magdalen Islands.
But the mayor says he never imagined the backlash. At a city council meeting, some residents said the plan amounts to erecting a border, that even a Quebecer coming to the island for a funeral will have to pay to travel to Quebec territory. And some evoke privacy concerns, as islanders will have to show proof of residency to come and go freely.
No.
Shani Thériault points to a possible legal precedent.
The municipality of Magdalen Islands is no different legally from any other municipality in Quebec. There's absolutely zero difference from moving between Montreal to Quebec City and Montreal to Magdalen Islands.
Other tourist hotspots like Venice are grappling with the era of travel. The City of Canals will mark a world first tomorrow, charging day trippers €5, about $7.30 to enter. Everyone dreams of coming to Venice, says Mayor Luigi Brugnaro, but great historic centers of the world must be preserved. Venice is hoping the fee will cut down on day trippers, but the Magdalene Islands say the idea is not to turn anyone away, but for travel to be sustainable. The plan calls for visitors to the islands to show their QR codes as they exit or face a $1,000 fine. And now this is between the months of May and October, the busy summer season. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
And there was a wild scene in another tourism hotspot today. 5 horses escaped from a military training exercise, galloping through the streets of central London for about an hour, one appearing badly injured. 4 people were also treated for injuries. And the horses, well, they're back at their barracks after a trip to the vet. After the break, the legend in the lock and the Canadian couple who might have caught a peek. We leave you tonight with a couple of Canadians suddenly thrust into the media spotlight for what they think they captured across the Atlantic. CTV's Heather Wright explains.
It's one of Scotland's most enduring mysteries, what may or may not lurk beneath the surface of its famous lock.
What we saw something, who knows, it's unexplainable, it's unbelievable.
Canadian expats Shannon Wiseman and Perry Malm were visiting the Scottish Highlands with their children earlier this month when they saw something.
We were looking down at the lock and Shannon goes and looks out at the water and it's like, what's that thing?
They thought maybe a seal or an otter until they were told no, that kind of wildlife doesn't live in the lock.
So we got home and I was in an internet doom scroll and I found the official Loch Ness sightings register. We submitted the picture and the Loch Ness people got in touch and now we're enjoying our 15 minutes of fame.
The register calls the photo compelling new evidence, deeming it the first sighting of Nessie of the year. The couple's children are all in, believing they saw the elusive creature. The parents aren't as sure, but say they want to believe, despite the skeptics.
Well, my brother asked me how my tinfoil hat fits, so I don't know if he was such a good audience.
Perry and Shannon and their kids are certainly not the only ones who believe in Nessie. Sightings of an unexplained creature in the loch date back to the 500s. The mystery took off in the 1930s and exploded with this famous photo of what appears to be a beast rearing its head out of the water. The picture was later exposed as a hoax, still the intrigue persists. Last summer, hundreds of volunteers came out for a massive hunt. They used state-of-the-art technology, but nothing conclusive turned up. Not enough, though, for those who believe.
Our children full on believe it's Nessie, so I believe it's Nessie.
Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
A captivating mystery. That's a snapshot of this Wednesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night, and see you tomorrow.